Picture this. You're in the studio with your boys trying to finish this track that's going to be your big break. Everyone's talking about how all the legends made their best music on lean, how it slows down time and makes you feel the beat different. You've been sipping for a few hours now, mixing it with energy drinks because you need to stay awake but also stay in that zone. Your body's getting mixed signals it absolutely cannot process. Fun fact, your heart's about to send you a very clear message back. What's up? It's your favorite dead host, and today we're talking about one of the most glorified, aestheticized, and completely misunderstood ways to die: lean overdose. That purple drink everyone thinks makes them a rock star? Yeah, we're going to talk about what it actually does, which is turn your respiratory system into a screensaver that never turns back on. Now, before we get into the beautiful horror show that is your body systematically shutting down, let's address the elephant in the studio. You really thought mixing a central nervous system depressant with stimulants was going to give you superpowers, didn't you? You essentially told your body, speed up and shut down at the exact same time. That's like putting your car in drive and reverse simultaneously and expecting to fly. Spoiler alert, you don't fly. You brake. But we'll get to exactly how you brake, and trust me, it's way less poetic than the songs make it sound. Here's what you need to understand about lean before your brain loses the ability to understand anything. Lean is typically a mixture of codeine, which is an opioid, and promethazine, which is an antihistamine. Both of these are depressants. They slow everything down: your breathing, your heart rate, your brain activity, your reaction time. Now add the energy drinks you've been mixing it with, which are pumping your system full of caffeine and taurine, trying to speed everything up. Your body's now a battlefield, and guess what? You're not winning. Nobody's winning, especially not your medulla oblongata, which controls your automatic breathing and is about to clock out permanently. Let me walk you through exactly what's happening inside your body right now, step by step, because there's a timeline to this disaster and you're about to experience every checkpoint. Hour 1. The false paradise. In the first 30 to 45 minutes, you're feeling exactly what you wanted. Everything's slower, softer, warmer. The music sounds incredible. Your anxiety's gone. You feel creative, untouchable, like you're floating. This is the part everyone raps about. This is the lie your brain is telling you while it's actually drowning in opioids. Here's what's really happening. Codeine is converting to morphine in your liver, and that morphine is binding to opioid receptors throughout your central nervous system. These receptors are literally designed to suppress pain and slow down your system. Meanwhile, promethazine is amplifying these effects while also blocking histamine receptors, making you drowsy as hell. Your respiratory rate is dropping. You're now breathing maybe 10 to 12 times per minute instead of the normal 16 to 20. But you don't notice because you feel amazing. The energy drinks are keeping you awake enough to keep sipping. This is the fatal mistake, bro. Normally, opioids make you so sedated you'd pass out before you could take a lethal dose. But you've hacked that safety feature with caffeine. Congratulations! You've just disabled your body's emergency shutdown system. Hour 2. The confusion hits. You're still in the studio, but things are getting weird now. You're having trouble following conversations. Someone asks you a question and you respond 3 minutes later. You keep losing time, like skipping forward in a movie. Your boys might be laughing about it. "Bro's faded," someone says. Yeah, faded is one word for it. Dying is another, more accurate word. Your respiratory rate has now dropped to about 6 to 8 breaths per minute. That's not enough, dude. Your blood oxygen saturation is falling. Normally, you're sitting at around 95 to 100% oxygen saturation. You're now dipping into the high 80s, low 90s. Your brain is starting to suffocate, but slowly, politely, quietly. Here's where the energy drinks betray you again. Your heart rate is elevated from the caffeine, so your heart is working overtime, demanding oxygen that your lungs aren't providing because the opioids have told your breathing muscles to take an extended vacation. Your heart is sprinting while your lungs are in a coma. This is unsustainable, but your body's going to try anyway until it physically can't anymore. You might start to notice your lips and fingernails looking a little blue. That's cyanosis, which is a fancy medical term for your tissues aren't getting oxygen and are literally changing color to let you know you're screwed. Most people don't notice this in dim lighting in studios. How convenient. Hour 3. The point of no return. Here's where things get really bad, and here's the twisted part. You probably won't even realize it. You're now experiencing what's called respiratory depression, which is a clinical way of saying your body is forgetting how to breathe. Your brainstem, specifically that medulla oblongata I mentioned earlier, is so suppressed by opioids that it's not sending the signal to your diaphragm anymore. You're now taking maybe 4 breaths per minute, maybe less. Each breath is shallow, weak, barely moving air. Your oxygen saturation has dropped below 85%. You're now in severe hypoxia. Your brain is running on fumes, and it's starting to shut down non-essential functions to conserve what little oxygen is left. Fun fact, one of the first things to go is judgment and self-awareness. So at the exact moment you need to recognize you're dying and call for help, your brain has turned off the part that would let you do that. It's like your smoke alarm removing its own batteries during a fire. Your heart is still racing from the caffeine, but it's struggling now. It's trying to pump oxygenated blood that doesn't exist. Your cardiac muscle is suffocating. You might start experiencing arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats where your heart is just trying anything to stay functional. It's like a drummer who's forgotten the beat and is just hitting things randomly, hoping it works out. Someone in the studio might notice you're not responsive anymore. You're slumped over. Your skin is grayish blue. You might be making this weird gurgling sound, or no sound at all. This is the moment someone should be calling 911, but depending on the situation, they might not. They might think you're just too faded and needs to sleep it off. Welcome to the consequences of drug culture that romanticizes overdose symptoms as just being high. The final stage, system failure. Your brain is now in crisis mode. Oxygen saturation below 80%. Your neurons are literally dying, thousands of them, permanent brain damage accumulating by the second. Your body makes one last desperate attempt. It triggers a massive adrenaline dump, trying to wake you up, trying to override the opioid suppression. Sometimes this works for a few seconds. You might gasp, your eyes might open. This is called agonal breathing, and it looks like recovery, but it's actually one of the last signs before death. It's your body's final scream. But you've got too many opioids on board, and that energy drink's caffeine has already exhausted your heart. The adrenaline surge isn't enough. Your respiratory system stops completely. No breaths, no oxygen. Your heart keeps beating for maybe another minute or two, pumping deoxygenated blood to a brain that's already shutting down. Then, your heart stops. Cardiac arrest. Everything stops. Okay, but what does this actually feel like? Because the clinical breakdown is one thing, but you click this video to know what the subjective experience is, right? Here's the truly messed up part about opioid overdose. It doesn't hurt at all. There's no panic, no pain, no dramatic moment where you realize what's happening. You just fade. It's gentle, comfortable even. That's why it's so dangerous and why so many people die from it. In those first couple hours, you feel incredible. Best you felt in weeks, maybe months. All your anxiety, depression, physical pain, just gone, replaced with warmth and contentment. The music sounds like it's coming from inside your soul. Time stretches out. You feel creative, connected, invincible. Then comes the confusion, but it's not scary confusion. It's dreamy. You're drifting in and out. Conversations sound far away. You might not remember where you are or what you were doing, but you don't care. It feels like being on the edge of sleep, that comfortable moment right before you drift off, except you're stuck there, floating. You don't feel yourself suffocating. That's the insidious part. Your body has a suffocation alarm for when carbon dioxide builds up in your blood, but opioids suppress that alarm. So even though you're not breathing enough, you don't feel air hunger. You don't feel the panic of drowning or choking. You just feel tired, heavy, like you're sinking into the couch, into the floor, into nothing. If you're still conscious enough in those final minutes, you might notice sounds becoming muffled, like you're underwater. Vision might tunnel, darkness creeping in from the edges, but again, no panic. The opioids have suppressed your fear response too. Your brain is literally too sedated to be afraid of dying. Then, you're just gone. No white light, no life flashing before your eyes, no dramatic goodbye. Just nothing. You slip from consciousness into death so smoothly, you don't even notice the transition. And that's what makes lean so dangerous, bro. If death hurt, if overdose was agonizing, people would fight harder to avoid it. But opioid overdose is comfortable, it's peaceful, it tricks you into dying without resistance. Now let's talk about what happens after, because your story doesn't end when your heart stops, it just gets worse for everyone else. Your friends in the studio realize something's wrong. Someone finally calls 911. Paramedics arrive. They hit you with Narcan, which is an opioid reversal agent. If they get to you fast enough, if you haven't been without oxygen for several minutes, maybe you come back. But coming back from an opioid overdose after your brain's been without oxygen for several minutes? You're not coming back the same person, dude. We're talking potential brain damage, memory loss, motor function problems, personality changes. If they don't get to you in time, you're dead. Your family gets a phone call that will destroy them. Your friends carry the guilt forever. You become a statistic, a cautionary tale, maybe a memorial post on Instagram with purple heart emojis. The track you were working on never gets finished, or worse, it does, and it becomes the song you died making. Here's the practical safety part, because despite being a cynical, dead ghost, I don't actually want more people joining me in the afterlife. First, don't mix substances, especially not depressants with stimulants. Your body can't handle conflicting instructions. It's not balancing out, it's just breaking different systems simultaneously. Second, if you or someone you know is using opioids, have Narcan nearby. It's available without a prescription in most places. It reverses opioid overdose and saves lives. Learn how to use it. Third, never use alone. Ever. The only chance you have if you overdose is if someone's there to call for help or administer Narcan. Fourth, understand that prescription cough syrup is still an opioid. It's just medicine doesn't mean it's safe in high doses or mixed with other substances. Codeine can kill you just as dead as any street drug. Fifth, if someone overdoses, call 911 immediately. Don't wait to see if they sleep it off. Overdose symptoms don't get better on their own, they get worse. Most states have Good Samaritan laws that protect you from drug possession charges if you call for help during an overdose. And finally, if you're using substances to cope with mental health issues, anxiety, insomnia, depression, please talk to someone. I know that sounds like after-school special garbage, but legitimately, there are resources and medications that won't kill you. Lean is not therapy. It's Russian roulette with a purple aesthetic. The artists who rap about lean, a lot of them are dead now. Pimp C, DJ Screw, Fredo Santana, Lil Peep, Juice WRLD, the list keeps growing. The ones who are still alive either quit or got lucky. Survivorship bias is real. You only hear the songs from the people who didn't die. The ones who died don't get to tell you it wasn't worth it. So, there you have it. Dying from lean overdose feels like falling asleep and never waking up. It's comfortable, quiet, and permanent. Your body slowly suffocates while your brain is too sedated to care. No pain, no drama, just lights out. And everyone you leave behind gets to live with the aftermath while you become another name people mention when they talk about the dangers of drug culture. If you want to keep exploring the worst ways to go, subscribe to this channel. I've got plenty more deaths to break down. Because, spoiler alert, humans have discovered an absolutely impressive variety of ways to die, and I'm dead, so I've got nothing but time to tell you about all of them. My coffee addiction transcends mortality, and apparently so does my need to roast people's terrible decisions. Stay safe out there, bro. Or don't, and maybe I'll see you on the other side. But hopefully not from lean, because that's a really stupid way to end up dead. Trust me, I know all the ways to die, and this one's particularly pointless. I'm out. Go drink some water, call your mom, and maybe delete your dealer's number. Your future self will thank you. Or, your future self will exist, which is more than I can say for people who keep sipping purple poison thinking they're invincible.